Why would you risk it?
By the time I was 20 years old, I was already MBBS. And so when I went to KEM hospital, the head clerk refused to give me a form because I was not a graduate of Mumbai.
Oh, good Lord.
Mumbai,
Hold on.
yes.
Padma Shri winner.
I met T. Ratan Tata once and
Wow.
I had a cup of tea with him at Bombay House.
So if you can just elaborate about what went into starting of Asian Cancer Institute, what was that thought and how has been the journey?
Every time that I have faced a challenge, I have taken a path which not necessarily is the easier one. If you don't know anything about money, how it behaves, there is no point in saying that I'm a very good doctor and I know zilch about money. Don't indulge with money. Let a professional handle it.
Our medical monarch today, a Padma Shri winner. He started his journey from a small town of Dharwad, completing his medical graduation from Karnataka, Hubli, and then coming to Mumbai and owning it as he does. He became one of the topmost surgical oncologists, absolute astute investor, come entrepreneur, a huge combination of an extremely skillful doctor with a very smart investor coming rarely together is our medical monarch today. He has several publications and trained so many doctors and surgical oncologists, and with his zeal not only to lead the Department of Thoracic Oncology and Pediatric Surgery in Tata Memorial Hospital, he also trained several doctors till date in this field. This is our medical monarch today.
This is Nehal Mota, co-founder of Finovate, and it's my utmost pleasure to welcome Dr. Ramakant Deshpande. Apart from being a highly successful medical practitioner, he's also a very successful entrepreneur. And today, we would want to explore his ups and downs being an entrepreneur, his success stories and his message to fellow doctors on what it takes to scale the organization. So welcome, Dr. Ramakant.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, Nehal and Mukesh. Thank you very much for having me here, particularly in this group of young, energetic crowd. Very nice. Thank you very much. I'm Dr. Ramakant Deshpande, also known as Raman amongst my friends, and it can be sometimes confusing because I have had patients asking me, are you the same Raman or Ramakant or whatever it is? And in fact, the postman has taken back some of the posts sometimes when I receive a letter called Raman Deshpande. Yeah,
but for your juniors, you'll be known as RD?
yeah, more or less. Yeah.
So, Dr. Deshpande, if you can throw light on your, growing up years and what were your great memories, growing up and how were you as a student?
I actually come from Karnataka and I was born in a place called Dharwad, which when I was born, it was a small place of, I think, 60,000 population, almost like a small town, sleepy town, but always known for educational background. It has a university, college, school, every single thing that one can think of. And that area is known as a kind of a Chota Mahabaleshwar. My father was a legal person. He had done his LLB and landed family, so he was very busy with all the court matters themselves. My mother was actually a housewife. There were 5 of us, the children. I was the 4th. And being a landed person, we used to have a teacher at home also, apart from the school, this thing. So, nowadays, if you really understand, the children are shown those flashcards for learning at an early age. And I was actually put into education, something like that. My the elder sister was 6 years older. Next one was 5. Elder brother was 3 years older. And they used to be sitting for education and various this thing. And I, as a kid, was 2 years old behind them. So, by the time I was 5 years old, and by that time, I had already finished the first and second standard.
Oh, that's the brilliant. Excellence starts very early.
So I got 2 jump promotions during my early career, early education. And so by the time I was 15 years and 11 months, I was already in medicine. It was possible those days. By the time I was 20 years old, I was already MBBS.
So while growing up, did you always wanted to be a doctor, or was there some factor which made you decide to get into medicine?
Remember, I grew up actually in the 1970s. It was a full house with so many children. So it was a very happy house that way. And then I got, those days it was much easier to get admission in medicine or...
Don't tell that to people now who are paying for NEET PG or NEET UG.
But I got on my own merit, and fortunately in a medical college, government medical college in Hubli, which was just about 18 kilometers away. So that was a good thing for me. And then next 4.5 years, they went very well. I had excellent classmates, very friendly people, excellent teachers. You know, those teachers who would actually take personal interest. Though we had a very large class. We were 180 of us in one class those days. But the anatomy professor, physiology professor would know each one of us by name. So we could neither sleep in the class nor absent ourselves from the class. So it was a very good learning, a very concrete kind of a background of education, which I realized that was very, very important much later in life. People don't realize that, your fundamentals have to be really very strong. No matter what you do, there are certain things which are absolutely essential that one must know if you want to really become a good professional.
I think that's an interesting learning for all the doctors who are watching here, that we need to have our basics great. Even the greatest of the oncosurgeon, who is known for his surgical skills, says this, that know your stuff better right at the beginning so that it is perpetually carried forward all through your life. But sir, did you face any challenges when you entered into the medical college or while entering into medical or studying in the medical college?
Yes, during look, I did fairly well in my final year. So I got a first class, one of the highest levels of marks. But, unfortunately, due to some changed circumstances of admission, though I stood very high, I could not get a postgraduate seat in the Karnataka state. So, well, all of us used to go ultimately, everybody, all refugees actually point towards Mumbai. So I came as almost
Don't
as a
say
refugee.
that. We have had a lot of history, sir.
So I came to Mumbai. I had a few relatives here. I had a few friends. So I got a post. And in fact, in Harkishandas Hospital those days, I got a post. And those days, actually, the posts and postgraduate admissions were not together. So you could actually register with the university and you could get posts everywhere else. So I had to wait for about 1.5 years. And as they say, in one of those Kapil Sharma show or all those shows, they say, ki mujhe meri awqat pata chal gayi. And so when I went to KEM hospital, the head clerk refused to give me a form because I was not a graduate of Mumbai.
Oh, good Lord.
Mumbai.
Hold on.
Yes.
A Padma Shri winner, a teacher of teachers.
That all came much later.
And he started his journey where the head clerk was almost writing him off. Oh my good Lord. That's interesting.
No, but I mean, you can imagine, you are a very young guy who's just about 20, 21, and then people refuse you. And in a small place, coming from Dharwad, where even the smallest shop owner also will know your father. So here nobody knows, nobody gives a damn, nobody cares for you. So, but I think that was a true wake-up call. So I really started working hard from that.
So what made you choose this subject, which is considered so morbid and hopeless by most, whether it is non-medicos or medicos, that nothing is going to come out with all these efforts? Still, what made you choose this subject of oncology?
For a period of time, I had got my post-graduation studentship and I did my master's examination. And I spent a good amount of time in the Tata Memorial Hospital during my residency program. I was exposed to excellent cancer surgery, and that's what actually prompted me to become a cancer surgeon, because I could see that, otherwise, those days in the 1970s, mid-1970s, late 1970s, cancer was absolutely hopeless kind of a word, where almost 80 to 90% people would die because of cancer. And I could see here that was not the case in Tata Memorial Hospital. There was a dedicated set of consultants who would actually work day in and day hard. A few people would work unceasingly to make a lot of people live. And that was something which really opened my eyes. And that is what drove me to become a cancer specialist in my life.
So, Dr. Deshpande, reflecting upon your journey of getting a Padma Shri award in 2014, and what are your memories associated with that, and how things have changed for you after the Padma Shri?
Yeah, see, Padma Shri came to me sometime in January. That was the time when I really received the news that I was going to get it. Awards, it is basically a recognition at the state level, which comes after you put in a lot of efforts. It is not a single person's prize. Please understand that. This is not like an Olympic prize where a person runs and gets a number one or something like that. This is a team effort. Unless and until there's a team of doctors with you, technicians with you, ward boys with you, patients have actually been treated very well. Without that, nothing really happens. And this was a culmination of an effort which I had put for many, many decades earlier. And that's how this was actually thought about. And that's how I got it. It was just a recognition of a team. Of course, I was happy because it was a recognition. But at a personal level, it was associated also with an internal family tragedy. So, I was not really jumping with joy. In fact, some of the people did comment on it that you don't seem to be so happy about it. But it was nothing to do with the prize as such. But when you're getting something, a recognition, a prize or whatever it is, awarded outside, there could also be associated with some withdrawal somewhere else. And that is, but in spite of that, you need to actually go on. And that is what I learned from that.
Well, this is an amazing thought. They always say about doctors that when doctors take vacation, they carry a little guilt with them. That time that they're spending with their family could have been done better if they would have served the patient, which is difficult to understand for people. All of us believe in work-life balance. And I think that is a very interesting thought. Wish I could have asked you more about it, but I don't want to get into that zone. But we'll stick to one more learning that we get from here. When we asked him about the question of Padma Shri, he put across the golden words that team before you. And I think he has given credit to the whole team and not just Individual. That is what you learn from great people. Thank you so much for this learning, sir.
So in this journey from being a medical student to being now country's leading oncologist to entrepreneurship, you've met a lot of people in this journey. So some people who've inspired you, and what are the lessons you've learned from them?
Look, we keep on meeting people all around, and that is why we have the Guru Purnima, as people from whom we learn. And, you can learn things from anybody. For example, a good stitching you can learn from a cobbler on the road. And the way he's talking to you, he's listening to another person, and his hands are moving absolutely expertly without any problem. And he's stitching that. I don't know. I mean, in today's modern day and world, not many people actually have a cobbler doing these kind of works for them. But, that is the time from where I came. And the way they stitch it, they use their hand deftly. I think something you can actually... I've actually learned my tying of the knots from one of those guys to refine that further. I met a lot of people, to be very honest, as an undergraduate, as a postgraduate, during my careers and all that.
But sir, looking at you and your success, I'm sure you must have met some elite people around you.
Absolutely.
And we are really curious. And a little bit of, the kind of journalism comes into all of us mind. That who were those people who came across in your life, sir? I know it's difficult to express everything, but we want you to tell us.
As I mentioned, that because of the wonderful work that was being put up at Tata Memorial Hospital, I eventually became an oncosurgeon. One of the most impressive person to have actually my role model, my teacher, my guide is Dr. Praful Desai. I was in fact his student for MS also.
Oh wow!
The beauty of his hand movements, the logical thought process, and the compassion and the commitment towards the patient care is something which absolutely anyone who actually saw him became his student. There are generations of cancer surgeons across the country who are spread out, who are his students. And he was one of the persons who impressed me the most. That is something as far as professional expertise is concerned.
Tell us something, which you can fondly remember about him, which shaped you and your thinking in your life.
One thing is, of course, his technical expertise is one thing. Secondly, I'll tell you, his compassion was such that, Tata Hospital would get many private patients, and particularly he was the director of Tata Hospital. So he would get ministers, industrialists, and so on and so forth. And we had limited number of operation theatres, so you could do only so much. And one day, actually, when I went and told him that, sir, we have a very long general ward list, he cancelled his all private list for next 2 weeks, and he said, you do this thing. So I said, but what about those people are going to hound you? He said, don't worry about how I handle them. And he gave those theatres, almost about 12 theatres he gave for entire general ward. So his commitment towards the common cause, compassion towards patients, and he would actually, literally, I have seen him sitting by the side of a pediatric neurological tumor patient for almost about 4 hours because patient was not doing well after surgery. So it is something, what makes you a doctor particularly is something completely different from what makes you a financial businessman. Your rewards are different, the targets are different, and your sense of compassion is completely different. It's not that you're a different human being. You're the same human being, except your goals are different. So that is what makes you better.
Once again, we see here how a doctor like him of his stature is very politely giving the credit of his life's journey and learnings and his way of practice to his teacher. And with that, one more lovely word. It is the purpose path and not the profitability. Thank you so much for this learning, sir. One more thing I want to ask you, sir, that when you were doing and meeting all these ministers and politicians and all these people, you might have come across some, big names and big people. Is there anything that you can share with us?
Yes. I met some very interesting people. But some of the names, like, I met T. Ratan Tata once, and
wow.
I had a cup of tea with him at Bombay House. I don't think he'll now remember.
Oh my God! Maybe you're going to say that we had tea with the person who had tea with us.
Yes.
And he was such a kind man. He made the tea himself. He gave it to me, and we got chatting. And he actually, there was something for which I needed to go there. And he received me right at the door of Bombay House.
Oh my God.
And then he came to leave me there. And I think amazing humility that I could actually sense from him. And that is something, if he can be humble, I think nobody else has any rationale or business in being arrogant. So that is what it was.
So he has given us a secret of why he is so humble. And that is where the humility learning is also coming from.
Yeah.
Besides his amazing upbringing.
Another wonderful, great human being I met was the late Dhirubhai Ambani ji.
Oh, wow.
And I met him in his own office. I just felt like meeting him one day for no reason, because I used to read so much about him. I wanted to see him. I wanted to see what kind of person he is. So I maneuvered and I got a meeting with him and went and sat. He never asked me why you have come. This was just a few years before he passed away. He also made tea for me, and it was going through my head that why is that
now
these
you're
big
making people jealous.
In fact, tea with the Dhirubhai Ambani and the Ratan Tata.
So then he got talking to me. Then he realized, during our talk, he realized that I was a cancer surgeon. I was still working in Tata Hospital that time. Then he said, "What do you want to do? Don't you want to start something on your own?" I said, "Sir, someday with your blessings, and I will love to start something." He said, "Yaad rakjo, number one thoujoich." This is So see, the spirit for excellence is something which I learned from him. So this is something wonderful.
So, Dr. Deshpande, like you rightly said, that one meeting with the late Dhirubhai Ambani got you thinking about your own venture. So if you can just elaborate about what went into starting of Asian Cancer Institute, what was that thought and how has been the journey?
One thing is, every time that I have faced a challenge, I have taken a path which not necessarily is the easier one, but the one which I felt at that time was the right one. So I could not get a MS surgery position immediately after my master's. So I could have got medicine, I could have got orthopedics in that particular state. And it was my state, my house was there, plot of land, everything. My father's ready to build a hospital. But I wanted to become a surgeon, so I came here as a refugee and finally became a surgeon. Same way, after having spent almost about nearly 20 years on the staff, we faced, as a group, we faced certain challenges in continuing as full-time surgeons. And by that time, we had built a good, cohesive kind of a group which would work together. And we had an internal discussion and we realized that, all right, we have all, mandatorily, if you spend 20 years, you can actually take a voluntary retirement. So by that time, we had already finished that. So we all decided, and almost about 20 of us left around the same time. And we continued working together in a place which was very kindly provided by the Piramal family at their Wellspring Clinic. But we realized that was only a daycare kind of a clinic. We could not really admit any patients, so we moved into the Raheja Hospital. over a period of time, we realized actually, we used to have our internal thought-provoking kind of storming meetings every week as to what exactly we should be doing and so on and so forth. One good thing was there is we could actually practice as a group practice. So, it was maintaining the professional standards was very, very straightforward and very easy. We were all senior that time. We had set up the standards at Tata Memorial Hospital. So we brought all that expertise here. But we realized that we can actually treat only the top 20% of the society pyramid. What happens? I can treat your relative, but I can't really treat his maid or his this thing in a private memorial hospital. So, like what we could do in Tata Memorial Hospital earlier. So we realized that if you can't fight the system, then you have to create your own system. So over a period of time, we said that, okay, let's build an institution where we could actually have a control over everything and let it be a sustainable, scalable kind of a model. And that's how in 2012, 2013, we started the Asian Cancer Institute at the Somaiya Medical College Hospital. It went on for about 9-10 years. Again, we faced another challenge there. COVID also came in at the same time. And then we moved on to our current thing. When you are in a field for a long enough period, you start realizing that whatever care you're offering at a place where you're offering it is not necessarily available everywhere. The sheer numbers of cancer patients is rising. Government is definitely trying its best, but government cannot really do anything. There are so many locations, so many large cities which go without having a good center, without a good kind of a care. So we started identifying locations with unmet need, and we decided that we'll take the excellence at affordable cost to those kind of places. And this started in 2016 with our offering this cancer care at Bhubaneswar. And over a period of time, we also started doing this in Navi Mumbai, and other places. So today, that's how the genesis of Asian Cancer Institute started, and that's how the multi-locational this thing started. And our whole format was, try to offer everything under one roof, which means that these all will be full comprehensive cancer centers. So we have today almost about 7-8 centers. By the end of another 1.5-2 years, we'll have 9 centers amounting to almost about 1,000 beds. And what happens is when you are running so fast, your next thing comes is, most important is money, which means that you start needing capital. You also need the human resources. You need doctors, you need nurses who have been trained. So if you take care of the finances, which is not such an easy thing, because I'm not a trained financial person. But the HR, this thing, and all the other organizational methodology. So right from beginning, we decided one thing, is administration is not our forte. And if I am going to be a number one man in my own field in surgery, there is no need for me to become a number 100 in administration. So we collaborated with good administrative people who are experienced, and this happy marriage between good administration, good finance professionals, and good doctors is what creates excellent institutions.
So, Dr. Deshpande, while you were scaling up, and I've been working with many nursing homes and many doctors since over a decade, everyone has this challenge of scaling up from one hospital to multiple hospitals. And at times, because they are so expertised in what they do, which is healthcare, there are many aspects to scaling up, not just being a doctor, but also finance or operations, marketing and other things. So how did you look at it and how did you address these challenges?
See, you must understand one basic difference. When you're treating a patient individually and responsible for the management of that patient, I take care of the patient in the ICU, in the ward, ensure that the patient goes home well, is followed up well, etc. That is called profession. I run a profession at that time. But the moment I start converting that whole thing into a hospital with many doctors coming in, money being required for vendors' payments, doctors' payment, etc., I'm running a business. So that needs to have very, very sound processes and follow-ups. This is very, very important. That's the administrative process which is there. Then the marketing comes into the interactions start coming, your interactions with other hospitals, interaction with the government, interaction with various organizations, so on and so forth. So, it starts becoming, and the dependence is multifactorial. So, merely because you are an excellent doctor doesn't make you a great kind of an entrepreneur. The journey of entrepreneurship basically is almost the same. First you do bootstrapping. Bootstrapping means what? You reduce your intake from the business itself. So, your practice money you don't take out, or maybe you charge less or something like that. But when you want to make it multi-locational and multi-city kind of a thing, your processes, the management information systems which are there, which mean that how many, the Marwadis have a very smart way of doing this. It's called a parta system. Kitna padta hai, kitna nikalta hai. And this is not only for money. It's a quality generated also, which may mean that if you are putting a factory of manufacturing, say, cups, then what is the quality of the cups which is happening? What is the shine of that? And so on and so forth. So like that, the management information system in every hospital is the patient-related outcomes, the finance-related outcomes, and the perception-related outcomes. These are very, very important. You may be treating the patients very well. You may be treating it very, very economically. But if the feedback which is coming up on your internet, if it is not very good, then there's something. I'm not saying you're doing a wrong service, but there is something which you are not attending to. Because mind you, the word of mouth also has a lot of effect on what you are actually doing, because you want more patients to come. So all these kind of things have to be handled very well. And to be aware of all these things is very, very important. I did not know all these things earlier. And I also slowly and steadily learned it. See, finance is something which is basically a means to an end. You can't really make money for making money. It's the purpose for which you are wanting to make it. And that is exactly the thing. As an individual, what do you want? You want a comfortable life for your family and for yourself. Most professionals, be it a woman or a man, for themselves, they may not really want so much, but they want their family to be comfortable. You want your children to be provided good education, good health, maybe good holidays, and good future to some extent. You can't really go to the third generation and all that kind of thing. So if you're going to deal with money is like a patient, right? You need to know everything about that, how the patient is going to behave, what is the diagnosis, what happens if you treat the patient this way or that way, how it is going to move. All these particular things have to happen. If you don't know anything about money, how it behaves, there is no point in saying that I'm a very good doctor and I know zilch about money. Don't indulge with money. Let a professional handle it. And I would say, unfortunately, 99% of doctors are like that.
There is a grandiose illusion that I am too good and I'm going to take care of myself, my work, my family, my finances, my HR services, my marketing, my branding. And I think that's a lesson to learn for all of you, that you need to understand your role. And you cannot be everything. You cannot be the CTO, you cannot be the CEO, you cannot be the CMO, and also be the doctor. That's interesting to learn.
Absolutely. Bill Gates actually said that, if you want to be really successful, there are 3 things which are really required. And in business, that's what he meant. One is, of course, you have to be a technocrat, like what he himself was. You have to be an excellent manager. And third one is, he used a different word which I can't use it here, but you had a bit of a bad man. So, they had those 3 people, So that's how Windows became such a huge kind of a product. And if you want to make your organization really successful, this is what you need to actually understand.
I think the interesting learning from here is that we have to understand the importance of how to have a feedback mechanism also. We have to understand that if we want to scale up, we need to have a system with processes in place, because otherwise it will become a key man organization which can never scale up. And the amount of time only that you can have is 24 hours in a day. And how will you take care of the rest? Last but not the least is listen to the people around you. Listen to the patient as everybody expects them, because they feel that they are a customer. You feel that they are a patient. But in this era of customer centricity, we need to transform it to patient centricity. That's an interesting learning that we get from this conversation.
So, Dr. Deshpande, what role has your family played in this journey of yours? And I know it's a cliche question, but how do you achieve work-life balance?
To be very honest, I'll tell you one thing. If you're an entrepreneur, you're not likely to achieve a great balance in your work life, because you will always be, kind of tilted towards your work. You'll spend more time towards attending to your that baby rather than your real babies. At least in the early phase.
So true.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but that is how it works. Not only here, internationally it will work the same way.
In all professions.
Yeah, in all professions it will work the same way. But I think this is very important, because you need to, see, without your family, basically you can't really do anything. You need to have a very, very stable family, and I'm very happy with what my wife and my children have done. She's the one who brought them up so well, and my contribution is just helping her bring those kids in this world. That's all. Otherwise, of course, I have attended the Parent-Teacher Association meeting and all that kind of thing.
But this actually, is your guilt speaking, sir.
but I'm eternally going to be thankful to my wife for the kind of unstinting support that she has given me, not only psychologically, as far as mental peace wise, as well as financially. Narayan Murthy's the first contribution of 10,000 came from his wife. So something like that happened in my Asian Cancer Institute also. So that is exactly how it happens. So, but at some stage, you need to actually divorce the financials of the company from the family finances and put them on a very secure note. Not risk everything for this thing. So this is very, very important.
So you pointed out to a very important point that we need to have a clear demarcation between business finance and personal finance. Because a lot of time I've seen doctors really mixing up their personal and their business finance.
And when something goes wrong, everything goes wrong.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one example. This is a very old example. There was a time when I was doing my MBBS. This was in the late 70s or whatever. Those were the days of sterilization. And there was a government incentive which was being given for sterilization. There was a senior person, a 2-year senior person who was already an intern, and he used to go and take part in sterilization, this thing. And it was rumored that he had made 10 lakhs rupees those days, which was a kind of a huge fortune. And he used to keep it, I don't know where he used to keep it, but he said that, no, I have kept it very securely. It was not in his bank, which we realized later on because of something that happened later. And this man suddenly, at a very, very young age, he was in his early 30s when he passed away. He passed away because of a myocardial infarction. And mind you, they had not yet bought their house. Wife was there, small children were there, and nobody knew where that so-called 10 lakhs was. He had not left any address. He had not told his wife, no, nothing. So, financial security is something very, very important. That's why, if you have significant amount of finance, one is involve your family. Your family must know. You must have, nowadays they call it as a family office. And your people know. Because see, there was a time during my early days where the money was, the source used to be one. The application used to be done. There was no there was no insurance availability. There was no Mediclaim. The investment used to be only in the real estate or gold or something like that. Shares were just coming in at that time in the 1980s. The study was not really that much. People used to study all those printed balance sheets. There was no comparative study, and so on and so forth. Things have undergone humongous change today, and such beautiful apparatus is available for managing money, for multiplying it. You can actually set up a target and you can do that. And there are professionals available today which there were none earlier. I mean, I really feel that I was born in the wrong time.
Well, the interesting part here is that what we learn here is he beautifully pointed out that we cannot put all the eggs in the same basket. Harry Markowitz, I think, he got a Nobel Prize for the portfolio management theory, that we need to have multiple tools and we need to have the risk assessment of all those tools as a collective and use that for the financial goals. And I think who better than Nehal, who has helped thousands of doctors and their families to achieve this. I think something should come from you, Nehal, here.
Very rightly put that we should not be putting all our fruits in one basket, and diversification is very important. There are two ways in which we can create wealth. One is that we save more, and second is that we consistently earn a good return on this savings. So these are the only two ways where you can create wealth. Most people believe picking up that best mutual fund or the best stock will lead to wealth creation. But that's a myth. More than 90% of investing success is because of asset allocation and not because of the right security selection. And so diversification or that asset mix, the correct asset mix is extremely important.
So how did you manage in your journey? Because you were at a comfortable position, you were doing well as a personal individual doctor, and you were scaled up and you were at the top level of practice with enough financial security. Why would you risk it and use another major step in the life where you are actually putting a lot of your hard-earned money, yourself, and also your families to start up a venture like Asian Cancer Institute?
That's a very good question. And many people have asked me this particular thing.
Because most of us will feel that, okay, I've done enough. Let's sit back. Let's not take any risk in life.
Quite right. But then it all depends upon what you're looking at your personal life. As I mentioned, that we have a very good cohesive kind of a group where we have a lot of brainstorming. And we actually realized that we wanted to kind of create an apparatus which actually continues giving service to people, and we are at an excellent spot as far as giving out professional services is concerned. We wanted that to happen in a continuous kind of a basis. So we wanted to create an institution which will have service, research, and education as three arms of that particular ability.
Brilliant.
When you're practicing, you're doing your service, but you can't do really teaching on a very large organized way. You can't really be teachers of DNB, MCH and all that. You can't really perpetuate your education. You can't do clinical research, so on and so forth. So we wanted to create institutions for that. And when you create one institution, you realize that there's an unmet need at many locations. And that is how exactly this concept of multi-level Asian Cancer Institute came up. So today we have things coming up in Srinagar and down to Mumbai. So multi-locational things we have now, and that's why we did this. As far as personal finance is concerned, that thing becomes stable. By the time as a doctor, by the time you are 40 years of age, you realize in your subconscious that you have adequate money. But I can give it in writing that most people don't know how much they have. Is it really? I'm telling you. They don't know whether it is actually...
They don't know what is there enough.
They don't know is it deployed profitably and whether it is deployed in a proper multiplication way or not. They have not taken care of their basic, to be very honest, basic requirements. I have come across doctors who have unfortunately passed away, leaving their family without a term insurance. Excellent people, in whose clinical ability I trusted, know this thing and no Mediclaim. So it is like that. So, all these things they come into focus if you are actually dealing with an expert in that particular field, because these are the first things which the expert is going to din into your head. He's going to put a hammer and put it on your head that you're not done this. Please do this first. And then go on a very, very... See, we have the intelligence to treat a patient. We have a patient, we have a diagnosis, we have an aim, and we try to go toward that aim by logical kind of progression of steps. We don't do this as far as our finance is concerned. So this is something which we must realize as doctors. And I'm very happy, that she has actually taken up training doctors as one of the main aims of her entire organization. And I think we have to thank you for that.
So I really appreciate that. You've mentioned our effort over the last decade to train medical practitioners in handling their finances better. And like you rightly said, it's not just about money multiplication, but also being cognizant of the fact that there is risk and you need to focus on risk mitigation, insurance, term insurance, Mediclaim, other aspects of money, not just investing. So Dr. Deshpande, you've highlighted some very key points of having that differentiation between business finance and personal finance. So in your journey, there are certain mistakes which you feel could have been avoided. And your message to all the doctors listening that, certain things which are a must do and certain things which they need to avoid.
See, what happens is, let's divide it in personal finance and in corporate this thing. Personal finance, I'll tell you one thing. See, when you start handling money, when you're a young person, when you're in 30s, you start your practice, suddenly you start getting money, thousands, then lakhs. It's a euphoria, to be very honest. And then, you go in a conventional wisdom. Ki, aap jameen le lo, gold le lo, that kind of a thing that happens. And if you are going to buy shares, then I will buy as many shares as possible, because concept is, like if you have 5 shares, I will have 50 shares. So people think that, sometimes, of course, such wisdom is not there anymore because people have become smarter. But, most important is you must read. You must read quite a lot, and you must discuss. There have been people who have been along this way, and they will actually give you a lot of wisdom. Never feel ashamed of taking knowledge from everybody. In fact, we pray to Devi Saraswati that let knowledge flow towards me from all directions. So, before you take any meaningful kind of a step, do that. Use the experts in that particular field about money management. I'm not trying to tout anybody's this thing, but this is very, very important. I could have probably had much more if I had this particular wisdom much earlier, because my journey is started in 1986 and is almost like 40 years now since I've been in the investment game. Secondly, doing changes again and again in a portfolio is not something which is very wise. If you really analyze somebody like Jhunjhunwala, he was said to be worth 43,000 crores. I'll tell you one thing, 18 to 90% of his wealth was concentrated only in 9 shares, which he never sold.
Yeah.
And same thing with Warren Buffett, same thing with everybody else. What you see is identify things properly. We keep on saying, अच्छा आदमी मिलता है जिंदगी में तो उसे नहीं छोड़ो. अच्छी स्क्रिप्ट मिलती है तो उसको भी नहीं छोड़ो.
That's a golden nipple for your life.
I think
because when the script multiplies 3, 4, 5 times, that itch, nahi, I'll sell it, book it, and then I'll buy something else. When you know that it is doing well, take a considered kind of this thing, advice, whatever, and then you work on that particular thing. So stability is something very, very important. 2 things, as they say, fear and greed. If you can control, then you can achieve quite a lot. As far as this is personal finance is concerned. As far as the corporate way of doing things, I'll tell you one thing. A lot of people make money, but a lot of them lose money because of wrong steps. So it is not how many right things that you do in life, but how many wrong things that you do in life, which will ultimately decide where you stand. This is something which we should never forget. You will find so many people, every 10 years, the topmost people in business will keep on changing all over the world. If you really analyze, last 20 years, who were the biggest? They may not be there the same thing. Why? Because they diversified into something completely unassociated with their strength, and they lost heavily in that particular thing. People who were absolute kings in their own field have gone into an unassociated kind of a field and dumped everything that they have. So don't ever forget, if you buy something which is not required to you, then you'll have to sell what is required by you. So this is something which, it's not my sentence, this is Warren Buffett's sentence. But
it rings well when you say that.
I think this is something very, very important. I was associated with a diagnostic center early in my life. Not my own this thing, but associated as an advisor. And I realized that, things which don't have a lasting kind of a value, which don't really leave a residual kind of a value, have no future. So don't undertake things which have no residual value in that. Because, it did make money, it paid back its loans, everything was perfectly fine, and then it got extinguished. So the person came back to exactly where he was 10 years earlier. So there is no point in doing anything like that. And this is a lesson which I learned.
I think what Dr. Deshpande, very rightly said that, you spend a lot of time in identifying good businesses. Once you set your hands at good businesses, you stay invested for a long time just because it's become 4 times, 5 times, 10 times. That should not be the criteria for you to sell. The company is going to run for 20, 30 years. Till the time the company is running, it's making money. there is no need for you or compulsion for you to get out. So he's bought a very important concept, which is long-term investing, to all of us.
See, what I would say, if I was 30 years of age today, and if I have the knowledge what I have today, I would realize one thing is that being a doctor and managing money are two full-time professions. You can't run two full-time professions at one time. So if you want to really are passionate about managing money, and if you're ready to forget your medicine, by all means go ahead with that if that is your passion. But if you want to pursue being a doctor and a meaningful doctor at that, because please understand, medicine is no more a part-time job. You have your vicarious responsibility, your medico-legal responsibility, and it can wipe you out in one shot if you're not very careful about what you're doing. So in that case, take help of the professionals and, let them do their job. But understand also one thing, delegating something is not abandoning it. So be involved with your money management at regular intervals. Interact with them for setting up your goals, your achievements or whatever it is, because you are going to input your money into that particular apparatus, which is going to be built up around your needs, your aspirations, your requirements, etc. And then it is going to actually go on a work. Always remember one thing, there are two phases in life. One is when you are making money for yourself and your family and all that. And number two is when money is making money for you. And I personally can vouch for one thing, is that the second phase is much more enjoyable. So I would say that, you go ahead and do this particular thing and it will really leave you very, very happy.
So I think this is something to learn forever, that it is the same principles, whether it is in healthcare or it is in financial management. We need to choose what we want to do and explore the core competency and the various aspects to it. We cannot sit tight on one particular small model which may die out on its own, because then it will not. You have to metamorphose to creating value to what you're doing. As Sir said, it should have a residual value which can enhance itself. You need to understand that just because something has given you a lot of returns, that doesn't mean you stop at that. You need to start looking at what more can be done. And it can be also with the perspective of finances, but also with the perspective of services that you can give back in the field that you are. Last but not the least, always be smart enough to choose the right experts around you to take care of those expert field, whether it is to run your business, whether it is your marketing, whether it is your finances, because that is where we make a mistake and that is where we go wrong and we will go down the hill. I think it was a great learning in this journey. It was one more amazing session with a great medical monarch, which is going to create a lingering thought in our brain that what is it that they do differently or they do the same thing in different ways that helps us to achieve those goals which we always want to dream of to achieve at their level. Thank you so much for being here, sir. It was really kind of you to share some time with us.
So I guess, what you are talking about is collaborating with professionals like us, where we expertise, and it's a full-time job to manage money. And basically our objective is to free up your time for what you do the best, that is serve the patients, while we focus on serving your family and your money, and basically letting that money work for you.
And mind you, it's a common good also, because your money, once it comes into meaningful kind of a multiplication, you're doing a national good.
Right. I think it's a very, I think it's a very good point.
So it is not just making money for yourself, but also to use it for the right purpose, besides your own purpose, also for the national economy.
Right. Yeah. We wish more and more doctors do well, because that's a very good way to contribute back to society, apart from whatever you're already doing for patients and the healthcare industry.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Dr. Deshpande. As a mother of 6-year-old son, I have some great lessons to take back to him. One is humility, from what you learned from Sir Ratan Tata. And also you said that what Dhirubhai Ambani told you, that you excel or think of becoming number one in what you do. And also that, how that whole journey from being a doctor to being an entrepreneur, and now, after 4 decades also having that kind of spirit to go multi-city, multi-location, that kind of aspiration. So there's a lot which I personally learned, and I'm very sure a lot of doctors listening to you would have learned today. Thank you so much for your valuable time.
Thank you.
Thank you.